Hello and welcome back to Friday Minis. Today we're going to be talking about something with a pretty intimidating name, even though really it's a pretty simple concept. And that is Pulse Width Modulation, or PWM for short. Here's the deal. When you're working with, say, a microcontroller like the Arduino, well, sometimes you might want to do things like make a light go dimmer or brighter. As it turns out, this is surprisingly difficult for a microcontroller like that to do. You see, the sort of usual way to dim an LED without a microcontroller is to simply limit the amount of voltage going to it. The less voltage it gets, the dimmer it gets, until past a certain point it just shuts off entirely. But the problem is, with a microcontroller you can't quite do that because, well, it's a digital device, it works on logic, things are either low or high. So then, how are you actually able to, well, cause an LED to become dimmer? The solution to this is actually quite smart. We are still giving the LED full power, but instead of giving it full power all the time, we sort of switch it on and off very quickly. So yeah, basically you can imagine this process to be like a square wave. Over a particular tiny slice of time, we are actually giving the LED power, and for the rest of it, we are not. The amount of time it actually spends getting power versus the amount of time it spends, well, being unpowered, actually is what affects, the overall brightness at the end of the day. If it spends a lot of the time in the high state, then of course it appears brighter. Whereas if it spends just a tiny fraction of the time in the high state, then we'll see that, well, it appears much dimmer. So what that means is what's happening under the hood is that, well, the light is flashing very rapidly. But we don't quite see that because it's flashing so quickly that we cannot actually discern that. That is PWM in a nutshell. When we want to drive something like an LED, that is sort of the simple solution. However, when we want to drive something that sort of relies on those different voltages to do something different, that may not always work because, well, ultimately, you are not sending out a different voltage. Certain components actually have additional circuitry built in to, well, try and infer some information from the PWM signal that is receiving. It can actually measure, the ratio of high to low, and with that, know what kind of value you are trying to send, what kind of value you're trying to represent. As mentioned, that will require, well, some sort of additional smarts on the side of the component to be able to decode this. So yeah, this is not a solution that works for everything, but when you're doing something like dimming an LED, it works just as well. Anyway, that's all there is for this particular episode. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, you're watching 0612 TV on NERDfirst.net. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my work and are feeling generous, you can shoot me a one-time donation on PayPal or sign up for a recurring one on Patreon. Of course, you can simply like, comment, and subscribe. You know the deal. For more videos, links to my channel and a related playlist are on screen. Thank you for your support.